The following is a presentation on the UFSN Network. Welcome to the UFAFL Nation.
Yes, greetings and salutations. Welcome into another episode of UFAFL Nation. I'm your host, Michael Skrizzy, co-hosted by this little bugger here on my face. We might as well get this show sponsored by leftover Halloween candy. We got a big show for you guys. Couldn't get a guest this week. We've had some technical difficulties, but we'll get through it. We'll start off with the NFL recap. Then we'll go into everything that happened in the UFAFL this week. And then we'll obviously get into stock up, stock down, and my best bets. You guys can follow me on Twitter at MichaelSKRZ. You can also follow the league's Twitter account there at the UFAFL, plus the scouting department Twitter account there headed by Jamie Thomas. If you have any questions for us, you can email us at info@uffsports.com. And then the website's there for you want to check out any other part of the UFAFL as well. Don't forget to check out the UFFF Sports Store, where you guys can put your logo or any logo from the UFAFL on some tumblers, maybe a water bottle, a hoodie, some t-shirts. It's getting colder out, guys, so think about those hoodies. It's been pretty nice here in Mississauga, but snow is on the horizon. I actually got to go out maybe tomorrow and grab some salt for the driveways. That's always very fun. But might as well get into it, guys, and let's get into the NFL recap. And we'll start off in the AFC because I think that's where more of the interesting stories are. So without Odell Beckham Jr., the Browns rushed for over 150 yards. Baker Mayfield tosses 2 touchdowns as the Browns crushed the Bengals in Cincinnati. The Bengals, they had their worst offensive performance all season, especially Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Burrow threw 2 interceptions, including a 99-yard pick six in the first quarter. Jamar Chase only had 49 yards receiving. Remember 2 weeks ago when the Bengals were the number 1 seed in the AFC? It feels like a long time ago because right now they are 4th place in their own division. Yeah, the AFC North is just as it probably is the craziest division right now in the NFL. NFC West is a close second, but the Bengals are 5-4 in 4th place. The Ravens, Steelers, Browns obviously all won in Week 9. I was suspect about the Bengals during that run that they were on. I wasn't so sure about the defense. And they got a tough schedule ahead, so they're on bye this week. But then you take on the Raiders, the Steelers, and the Chargers, their next 3 games. The AFC North is definitely going to be tight all season. Speaking of the AFC, I got to ask you guys a question. So obviously we all know the Titans are the best team right now in the AFC, but who's the second best team? Like, are there any great teams in the AFC? I ask this because we saw what happened in Jacksonville as the Jaguars upset the Bills in what was probably the upset of the week. The Bills are everyone's like darling in the conference, especially over the first couple weeks of the season. But they're definitely flawed. They don't run the ball efficiently, which puts way too much on Josh Allen's shoulders. And with a banged up O-line, you guys saw what happened. Jacksonville's D-line just ate up the Bills' O-line. They were missing a couple of starters. But like the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Raiders, they're also flawed. Like the Colts don't beat anybody good. I think the Ravens are probably the second best team in the AFC, especially the way Lamar Jackson and that offense is playing. Like Lamar is probably, if not the first favorite for the MVP, it's him or Tom Brady right now, in my opinion. But the Ravens still have some pretty tough games. They got 2 games against the Browns and the Steelers. They also play Cincy one more time, who already beat them. And then they play the Rams and the Packers. So will the Titans end up with the number 1 seed in the AFC? Maybe. They have a pretty easy schedule coming up, but without Derrick Henry, we don't really know. But I just don't really know about the AFC. The hierarchy seems very weird. It's a very muddled top end in the AFC. And yeah, it's just going to be the playoffs are going to be very interesting to say the least. Well, we spoke about the Jaguars upsets. And speaking of upsets, the Broncos were up 30-0 at one point in Big D as the Broncos ran all over the Cowboys. Dallas finished with a season low 290 yards total, which is very surprising considering the Broncos traded away Von Miller and were missing team sack leader Malik Reed. The Rams and Packers also lost this week, which really helped the Cardinals and the Bucks, who are also chasing the number 1 seed in the AFC. So we all know about the AFC, it's pretty tight, but the NFC playoffs are going to be a bloodbath as well. There's 5 really good teams. Right now, the Atlanta Falcons occupy a wild card spot at 4-4. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't see the Falcons making the playoffs. I just don't think their defense is good enough, and it's hard to trust that offense without Calvin Ridley right now. But yeah, like NFL is just super tight. This is that type of year where you're expecting one or two teams to go on a huge run and maybe one or two teams to fall off really far. So it's been very interesting so far in the NFL. And that leads us to the UFAFL recap, where first we want to mention that the Trout, they stayed undefeated. They're 9-0. They beat the Hydra this past week. Really hoping Phil to get Phil to talk about that loss. Hydra's got a good team. They got nothing to worry about, especially when they get some of their studs rolling, like Dak Prescott. He should be better. Like, I know he had a tough week against the Broncos, but Austin Eckler, Tyreek Hill, they got a really good offense there. Marcus Golden for the Cardinals for the Hydra has been excellent so far this year. He's like the linebacker 4 in UFAFL scoring. But there's only so much you can keep saying about the Trout. Like, the running backs almost put up 60 points. Justin Herbert had another big game. But I want to talk about some other squads, especially the Empire and the Heat Wave. They may not be undefeated, but they both improved to 8-1. The Heat Wave almost got 60 points from their running backs and 42 points from Titans defensive lineman Jeffrey Simmons, who was actually the UFAFL Defensive Player of the Week. They put a hurt on the Turf Monsters, and they will look to stay hot when they take on the Valkyries, where they will be heavily favored. And the Empire, they didn't have a good week by their standards, but they were able to double up the one-win Kraken. They get Chris Godwin and DK Metcalf back from bye this week, and they'll be looking to play the Kingsmen, who are trying to get back to 500. The Manning East Division goes 3-1 in Week 9. Only 1.5 games separate the top 3 teams in that division. The division went 3-1. Yeah, so the Gridiron Seals defeated the Valkyries despite rough games from the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs didn't have great games, obviously, but Brandon Ayuk looks to be picking it up after a slow start. The Tiger Sharks won their 4th straight game and are now just a half game back of the Seals. And the Doom improved to 5-4 after defeating the Kingsmen behind big games from Joe Mixon and Falcons receiver Olamide Zaccheaus. I think I said that right. He caught 2 touchdowns for the Falcons. And then the Paradise Blackhawks win their 4th straight game. Despite a poor performance from Patrick Mahomes, Darrell Henderson, and Ezekiel Elliott, surprised they were able to pull this one off. So they take a 2.5 game lead in the Manning North. And with the emergence of Hollywood Brown and more expected targets for the Cleveland Browns pass-catching duo of Jarvis Landry and Austin Hooper, the Blackhawks will be a tough out for anybody in the playoffs. So that moves us over to stock up and stock down. My stock up for this week, he probably won you your week if you had him in your home leagues. James Connor, running back of the Arizona Cardinals. He is currently RB10 in UFAFL scoring. I believe he's tied right now with Darrell Henderson. The Cards, they rank 8th in rushing in the NFL. Would not have expected that at the start of the season, especially with how pass-happy Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury have been. The good thing for Connor is that running back Chase Edmonds got hurt on the first play. He's been kind of banged up all year with a shoulder injury, but now he has a high ankle sprain. He's going to be out for multiple weeks. Right now it's only Eno Benjamin behind James Connor, so I expect him to carry the load for that offense on a really good offense. Even without Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, they put a hurting on San Fran this past weekend. So if Kyler Murray's banged up, they're going to try to run the ball more. Like, that just seems like smart coaching. So I expect James Connor, who has been in the past a workhorse running back, to get more touches. He's got 10 rushing touchdowns this season, tied for the most in the NFL with Derrick Henry. And he's probably one of, if not the best return of fantasy investment in the early part of the season. Stock down for this week. I want to talk about the New Orleans Saints pass catchers. So who would have thought after last year with Sean Payton and Drew Brees, Brees leaves, and right now the Saints, they're 31st in passing yards per game. Another weird thing about the Saints pass catchers is that Alvin Kamara, the running back, leads the team in receptions. We know Michael Thomas isn't coming back. Odell Beckham Jr. might go to the Saints, which would actually muddy things up even more. Like, you're probably thinking, okay, I can play Odell Beckham Jr., but with Trevor Siemian or Taysom Hill at quarterback, like, are those really good targets that you want? This past weekend, the Saints had 7 different players catch multiple passes. but nobody saw more than 8 targets. So they're obviously going to spread the ball around and get it to Kamara as much as they can and lead on the defense. That's just how I expect the Saints to win these games, since they don't have that explosive offense like they've had the last, 5 to 10 years. So I just don't think that there's any true pass catching option on the Saints that you want to play, because like Kenny Stills is catching a touchdown on 3 catches for 25 yards. Like you can't just bank on one of these guys catching a touchdown, because you really don't know who it's going to be. Okay, so then we go on to our My Best Bets segment. And I want to look at Red Zone Dragons, who are a 12.3 underdog to the Tiger Sharks. The Red Zone Dragons are coming off a rough week. They didn't have Aaron Rodgers in the lineup, and I assume that he's going to be able to come back. We won't know probably until late Saturday, early Sunday, whether Rodgers will play. But if Rodgers plays, and then they get a couple guys off of bye, especially DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson, who they picked up at the trade deadline, the Dragons average only 12 points less than the Tiger Sharks, like basically all season. So I just don't know if, I just think that the Red Zone Dragons will bounce back this past week. The Sharks are on a roll, don't get me wrong, but I just don't know if they're on the upper echelon of this league. Tannehill and A.J. Brown go against that Saints tough defense. I don't really like that matchup at all. Especially with Marshawn Lattimore, the corner for the Saints. It's going to be tough sledding, I think, for the Tiger Sharks. They're going to make the playoffs. They're a really good team, but I just think the Red Zone Dragons will have a bounce back. I just think it's going to be a close one. I can see the Red Zone Dragons taking this one. So, guys, before I sign off here, just want to let you guys know once again to check out the UFF Sports Store. The boys have been working really hard behind the scenes to get some stuff out to you guys and your families. Like I said, guys, Christmas is just around the corner. There's some cool items here. We're going to work on getting way more stuff as well into the website. Put your coffee into a tumbler. Get a water bottle going, guys. We got to stay hydrated, especially the sweaters and shirts. There's a couple really cool logos. I wanted to get Phil on here to talk about his Hydro logo. I think that's actually one of the cooler ones in this league. But then you got the Legends League. You can put some, I'm sure we're going to be able to put Legends League stuff on there. And there's going to be a bunch of stuff, just cool stuff there. So go check out that store, uffsports.shop.creator-spring.com. And just help us out, just because we're a family and we all need it. So, yeah, thank you guys for tuning in this past week. This upcoming NFL week should be okay. There's not a lot of great games coming up. Hopefully, we'll see what happens with Odell Beckham news. Apparently, it's down to either the Packers, the Saints, or the Chiefs for his services. And that will surely change the fantasy landscape for a couple of those teams. And I wanted to say thank you guys once again. Dean Millard, behind the scene, the technical producer, who's been doing a ton of work with the baseball league. And he just celebrated a birthday, so happy birthday, Dean. Jamie and Andy Mack running the show behind the scenes. Darren Bates as well. He's always putting in work, guys. You guys don't know, that guy doesn't sleep at all. So I want to thank those boys. And thank you guys for tuning in. And we will chat again next week.